Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple planter box. Here is the lumber haul that I just got done purchasing over at the family-friendly big box store. This is all cedar. I have a total of 10 2x6 by 8 foot long cedar planks here. I have some, it's kind of hard, blends in with the wall here, but these are some 1x2 by 8 foot long pieces of cedar. And then here is a 4x4 piece of cedar and a 2x4 piece of cedar, and I'll explain how all of this goes together here. So use the old trusty Tundra to get it home. Got the stuff here. I'm going to take all this back out onto the patio and start building it. Alright, now that you have your dog helpers, I went on ahead and laid down the 4 slats of the first side, and this measures 22 3/4, right where Murphy's standing there. It's going to be 22 3/4. So take your 4x4 post, and your first cut is going to be 22 3/4. Okay, so I thought I'd narrate the rest of this video since a lot of it is clips and me trying to speed up the process. The entire build time on this takes about, I'd say about 2.5 hours if you're working at my pace, which isn't super fast, just kind of enjoying the day. So in this shot you'll see me gluing up this 4x4. I like to put glue on the long sides, at least this way I can always increase the width of the boxes if I needed, but it gives it a little extra support. And then this is just getting everything aligned nice and square on the first side. This is the flat speed square that I like to use to get everything ready to go, and I'm attaching this with 3.5, I believe, inch or 3 1/8 inch lag bolts. Just make sure what I'm doing here is just making sure everything is measured before it's put in, so everything looks nice. Okay, that's what your first side should look like. Those pieces attached. Then what I do is I come around with 2 clamps, and you'll notice the cedar stuff isn't always perfectly cut, so I'm just going to show you how to square up that edge. So I run the T-square along the edge of the straight side, and then I just zip off all the little extra pieces that are there. You get this stuff from the big box stores. Not all of them are cut exactly the right length, so it's just you could always trim them beforehand. Here we go, just gluing up the other side and getting that one ready to go. A little trick would be to take a cut-off piece of the 4x4 and put it underneath the center of these boards. That'll act as a support so you don't have to do too much lifting. And I always try to stand on some of the boards if they're a little crooked, just to give a little extra weight so the lags drive in nice and straight. The biggest thing with this build is just to make sure that all those lag bolts are measured. Come in from 1 inch on the bottom and top. There's one whole side ready to run. Now what you're going to do is build another one exactly the same size and then connect them together on the sides. Pretty simple. Yeah, this particular box was an 8 foot by 2 foot to fit in a specific section of the yard that you'll see later. So going 8 feet long means you're going to have to add some vertical supports that I'll go over later on in the video. But I like to include a lot of this stuff that you're seeing now, this sped up footage, just to so you can get an idea, realistically how you're going to build it, how long it's going to take, how much room you need. A lot of videos on YouTube are set up in controlled environments and shops, and they don't really show you the whole process. They just kind of show bits and pieces, and while I think that's important in an edit to speed it up, I do like to put stuff like this in these types of videos just so you can see. And it is simple, but if you put all the steps together, I guess it could become a little confusing. So there you just saw me. I use a Makita blower to blow off all the sawdust just to keep the workspace clean. And obviously, if you were doing this inside of a shop, you'd want to, definitely wear a respirator. Don't be breathing any of this stuff in. Just Measuring the last couple screws here.
Okay, if you're following along, here's the 2 equal sides, almost 2 feet deep by almost 8 feet long. Trimmed off about a ½ inch on the bad cut sides to make sure we're perfectly square. But you can see they really start to take shape, and if you take your time and you lay out and measure those screw holes, it really gives it a good finished appearance. So next is to build the sides.
So I lay it up on its side here, and if you did everything right and everything's relatively square, it should stand up.
Okay, the next thing I'm doing is cutting these boards. These are 8 foot long boards, 8 foot-ish. They're not all exact. 8 foot long boards, so I'm going to cut these at 23 inches instead of 24 inches so I have enough for each side. Just a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, if you go at it and cut each one at 24 inches, then you'll notice when you get to the end, you're not going to have enough length to get the last board cut, because well, in my experience, these cedar planks have been 7 foot 11 to 8 foot 1 1/4, so 23 on the safe side if you're trying to get 4 pieces out of 1 plank. I'm using some regular pinch clamps here just to kind of get everything in place, and I do a clamp swap here mid-project for this section because those twist clamps weren't as accurate as grab clamps for this particular application. So I tack in one side nice and square, and then I get the other side pretty squared up. Use a helper if you don't have the strength to move these things around. The way that's a pretty heavy piece I'm moving on the side there, so just kind of be mindful of your back and don't hurt yourself doing this. I clamp up the other side, and then I get it ready and square for the next lag bolt. Square it all up, mark it off, and run them in. And the same thing goes with the rest of it. The biggest thing with this stuff is I didn't plane any of it down, so just check your edges on each side and make sure everything lines up on each side, and make sure everything is square and the unit's not trying to walk in to the insides. I clamped the first 2 boards together to take up any gap, because I noticed there was a little bit of a difference between the 2. And an impact driver is definitely necessary if you're going to do it the way I did it. A lot of people use regular screws, but I think these lags for maybe $10 more a carton are definitely a better choice.
Yay, there's the side. One side completely done. And you can see now why I mentioned measuring all the screws. It starts to really take shape. Kind of gets its own character once the grain kind of comes into its own too. So you're just going to repeat the process on the other side, which is what I'll do now. And then these are going to be ground contact beds. So if you guys watch a channel called Homestead and Chill, follow Deanna, she's awesome. Take a look at her gardens, it'll blow you away. But if you look at some of her beds that she does, this is a similar style.
Yeah, she does a lot of beds out of redwood because she's over in California. Finding redwood here in Florida is not impossible, but you're going to pay a premium. This cedar stuff alone was $18.10 a plank, a 2x6 plank, and it took 12 planks to do this one bed, and the 4x4, the 8 foot long 4x4 that I used to cut for legs in the beginning of the video that you see at all 4 corners, that was about $28. So that little carton of screws you see down there at the bottom, those GRK fasteners, those lags, I keep calling them screws, they're lag bolts, those are about $42 a carton. So it starts to really look good though, and it'll hold up a lot longer than anything you're going to buy in the store if you do it like this. So on this part, since this thing is 8 foot long, I bought a 2x4 cedar, 2x4 made out of cedar by 8 foot long, and I'm adding 2 on each side. I'm measuring in 3 feet, and I'm adding these in. I glue them on one side, and then I run the screws, as you can see here. And the way I do the screws so everything stays straight is I just take my T-square and lay it on its side, and I just measure out what looks good. Try to get 2 screws per plank in on that 2x4. And then that sucks everything together nice too. So it's just, you know, mainly a repeat. Everything you do, you're just basically just doing twice on any kind of a build like this. You know, try to get in the habit of using wood glue if you can on stuff like this, because it does add that extra layer of joinery with regard to pull away when things start to get weathered. And you can see this is relatively easy to turn over. And now I'm adding what's called hardware cloth or chicken mesh. This stuff is pretty good and acts as a nice little floor for the bed, but it also allows drainage. You can elect to add this or not depending on if you want your vegetables to root down into the base soil, or if you want it to stop. You could add some weed block on the inside and the outside of this to stop anything from going through. And these are pretty good shears. I use these to build my chicken coop. Those were Milwaukee metal shears. This pretty much wraps it up. Just adding the last of the hardware cloth here, and then I don't show it in the video coming up, but I add some handles to the sides just to make it a little bit easier to maneuver. So here they are, all finished up and looking good. You'll see out there in the distance I built another one. That's a 6 foot by 4 foot. I didn't do a video on it, but you can build these to any size you want. Just the main thing is just doing the math and how many pieces you're going to get out of each plank, because this stuff's not cheap. So now the only thing that's left is to add some soil and start planting some veggies, and I will keep you guys updated on that. There's the handles you can see on the side that I was mentioning. Those handles are about $4 each over at the big box store. And then here's the big 6 foot by 4 footer with the hardware cloth at the bottom and some bees. You need bees. So yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Remember to thumbs up. If you have any questions, pipe them down below. And always, please subscribe, because I'm going to be doing a lot more videos like this in the future. So, see you later.